In 1994, Martin McGuinness said these words, "It's now time for peace in Ireland." It was the first time a member of Sinn Féin had been heard or seen on Irish media since 1971. That's right, kids. After the nationalist people in the north abandoned since partition under a crushing apartheid regime that denied expression of Irish identity, basic human rights, access to housing, jobs or political representation, culminating in the 1969 civil rights protests, which were met with brutal state violence and loyalist pogroms, the burning of tens of thousands of nationalists out of their homes, leading directly to the establishment of the IRA in their defence against state violence.
Blame the IRA. There's no IRA that I know of about, but I wished I had been an IRA woman. I would have been here on the spot.
It was at this moment those paragons of virtue, also known as the Irish establishment, introduced censorship and denied a voice to Republicans and denied a population of the Irish Republic the truth about British brutality in the north. Thought control that was hardened in 1977 by arch-unionist Conor Cruise O'Brien, banning any Sinn Féin member to be broadcast on television or print, no matter what they were talking about, or whether they were speaking on behalf of Sinn Féin or not. RT's independence was being crushed around that time too, with serious allegations of MI5 spy rings in Irish political and media institutions, involving senior figures directing the news output to paint British policies in a positive light, and along with McCarthyite smears eliminating any independent journalists, it became a place only for the rabidly anti-Republican. The RT bias that many complain about has a long and murky history. What is the actual difference between the IRA campaign that led to the formation of the very state we're all celebrating and the IRA campaign beginning in the 1970s? This was Irish people fighting a war surrounded not only by a nasty sectarian state in control of the entire security apparatus, but the full might of the British state, who were clandestinely directing the whole thing, loyalist death gangs and all. Something the Irish establishment claimed was Republican fantasy at the time, by the way.
We had strong suspicions that there was collusion. We would raise it, the British would deny it. That was it.
I'd fundamentally put it in a moral frame that I had real issues in working with a party that behaved like this.
I don't believe any Irish government have had the balls to go and ask the British government for the documents to find out what was going on and if there was collusion.
And that constantly seeks to justify the murder and mayhem of 40 years.
If you can establish the truth, you're not rewriting history, you're telling history.
The murder and mayhem of 40 years.
We were a group of police officers who linked up with UDR, UVF, UDA. Our role was to carry out attacks against nationalist and Republican community.
And I'd fundamentally put it in a moral frame.
These were bomb, shooting attacks. If ordinary Catholics were shot, nobody was too worried about it.
Yet Sinn Féin keep trying to shove down people's throats the narrative this was all just and great.
We don't have the closure yet that we're seeking. We will keep going in the name of my father and his legacy.
Shove down people's throats.
How were you able to target Republicans in the way that you did?
Security forces information.
Shove down people's throats.
Which branches of the security forces?
All branches.
That little boy was shot when he was running away. He was just a little bit behind me when he fell. I heard the shot, I looked around, I saw him down.
You saw him?
Yes. And he was shot.
He was a young man?
He was a young boy, I would say about 15.
Positioned in mine, I'd fundamentally put it in a moral frame.
But if you're asking me, could we have got where we are at the moment without people resorting to armed actions? No, we could not have.
There was no alternative to the death and destruction.
In my opinion, that is not to say that everything that happened was right, because many things that happened were totally and absolutely wrong. And I wasn't being glib, Ryan, when I talked about your grandfather, because you're obviously proud of your grandfather.
But
he was a member of the IRA. He opposed the treaty
in a very in a very different time. I'd say if you looked into the audience and you could do a hands up and find at least a third of them had relatives who were in the old IRA. So I don't think the comparison is remotely
why not,
is
Ryan?
fair. Well, again, I'm not going to get into a political statement because we could talk about.
I was born into a state that didn't want me. I was born into a state where people who were of a national mind were abandoned.
So did you?
That contradiction between the supposed morality of the good IRA and the bad provisional IRA was always there, but repressed by the church and the establishment media in Section 31.
As a northerner, you cannot help but be struck by the deep hypocrisy of all this stuff, because all of the guys in Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael who were deploring the IRA and what they were doing in 1972, 1973, their fathers did the same stuff in 1919, 1920, 1921.
I mean, let's not do this southern naivety bit that our violence was okay and we will make heroes out of our violence. But see, these bad, evil black people in the north, their violence is not okay. IRA were bad, British were good, the Irish were good, and 1916 was good, but actually up here was bad. Not true. This is as complex up here in our age as it was in Dublin in that age.
But the trigger to unleash all that underlying nationalism bubbling under the surface was Charlie Flanagan and co. insisting on the RIC Tan commemoration. This really pushed people over the edge. Now the Republican genie is out of the bottle, and what's sure is, new narratives will be written in the years to come. Their version of Irish history lies in ruins. The one that says the Orange State was a perfectly legitimate entity, and the nationalists should have accepted their fate. Unionists were the true heroes, and the less the South had to do with the whole mess, the better. It involved censorship and banning Sinn Féin from the airwaves, and after making the IRA a huge issue during the election campaign, the establishment got their answer. Their revisionist history is finished. The Irish people don't believe it anymore.